masz mute.
Dun, 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 dun. Hi, I would like to welcome everyone who already joined our stream on yet another meetup created by RollingScopes community. Today we will have one speaker and one speaker ninja actually. But first I would like to tell you more about RollingScopes itself in case you didn't heard about us in the past. So basically RollingScopes is initiative created by developers for developers, and it's mostly to exchange experience, knowledge and stuff like this. And the best way to exchange knowledge and to network is through meetups, so that's why we are here. And today we will start with Pavel, my colleague, telling us about some cool stuff that RollingScopes does, which is, for example, RollingScopes Academy, which is actually a pretty nice bootcamp for everyone who is aspiring to become a front-end developer. And then we'll proceed to 2 talks by my another colleague, Alexei, who will be talking and explaining to us Angular. Okay, Pavel, would you like to say something more about RollingScopes Academy?
Thank you, Alicia. Of course, sure. Guys, I prepared a presentation for you about our activities. Let me share my screen. Just checking if everything is visible on the screen. There's time difference between there's time lapse between what I see, what I present, and what I see on the YouTube.
Just don't look at yourself on YouTube.
All right. So, but can you see right now my presentation?
Not yet. I can only see. Wait a second.
Yeah, I can see that perfect.
Yeah. Now it's
All right, great, thank you. So we are the RollingScopes community. In general, what we are, in one sentence, we are a friendly, easygoing community. We are mostly focused on JavaScript, CSS, and HTML. Of course, this is for front-end side. We also have talks about testing and other things which can be interesting for the audience of programmers. What we do. So if you participate in events or if you want to become speaker, you will get some experience in non-standard dev activities, which are talks, presentations, organizing the events. All this can help you in your professional growth. You increase your knowledge level. You share good devs practice. We organize talks, streams, tutorials, quizzes, schools recently as well in Poland. So here I have just a few photos. I don't want to talk too much about the RollingScopes, just a few photos about how the events so far looked like. However, right now we have this, for the first time, this online meetup. However, before that, we had all these meetups in the restaurant on Barka in Krakow. This is really nice place. We had there a great time with with drinks, with talks, with knowledge sharing, with networking. We had quizzes, questions. We had prizes for people who participate. We had coupons, everything. So I hope that we'll come back to this way of the meetup. So all this is really nice food for the people who join us there. And so how you can participate? So you can join us as audience right now online, of course. Soon you can, I hope that soon we'll come back to Barca and you will join us in person. You can, of course, I encourage you to become a crew member and help us to organize the events. You can also become a speaker and feel very, very great once you're on, in the event as a speaker. This is great experience. I know this sounds sometimes a bit scary, but actually it's really good experience. We aiming for the easygoing atmosphere on the event. So if you want to learn how to become a speaker, this is really good place to start because the events, they really have a character of very easygoing. How you can find us on the Facebook, the RollingScopes PPL, YouTube on RollingScopes. It's the channel we are currently on. And another thing, Alicia mentioned already, the school. The RollingScopes community organized the school. Let me pull up the website. I will briefly tell you a few facts about the school itself. So the school itself is, first of all, is free of charge. You will get all materials. You will get help from mentors. Mentors and trainers are from companies. Those people are actually working with code every day. They will be doing code reviews for you. They will help you. They will point you to the right directions. You'll get, of course, certificate, but this is maybe I think the less important thing. It's open to everyone. It's all is in English, so whatever country you are from, you can join us. We also have these communication channels where almost all members are very active in the schools and help each other, share their resources, and the facts about the last school in Poland finished like two or maybe probably 2 months ago, and for now there was 5 people who finished the school and are already employed. 5 other people are selected and on the waiting list. All these numbers are only applied to EPAM, which is a sponsor. So this is only for the EPAM. I don't know, there are probably other people for the different companies also. I don't know the exact statistics. And the school itself also is organized that you can work and learn at the same time. We have the meetings every Tuesday and Thursday between 7 and 9 p.m. The total time for the training, it's about 5, but usually the last time was extended to 6 months. It covered all the JavaScript. We built a lot of projects, and then at the end we moved to framework. We took React and then Angular frameworks. And all this is, of course, online. If this hours doesn't suit you, you can always rewatch the recordings. So back to the presentation. I think that would be all. Thank you a lot. Don't hesitate to contact us. Probably the best solution is just go on this website and ask questions there. The next Rolling Schools will be next year. Right now we are organizing this, and probably we start in the February or March. That would be all from my side. Thank you very much for listening. Alicia, you can take over.
Okay, so thank you, Pavel, for the introduction of what RollingScopes actually does and that there's a possibility to join us. Our next speaker will be Alexei, and he will introduce us to design patterns in Angular applications. So, Alexei, your turn.
Thank you. Let me share my screen really quick. Give me a second. I hope you all can see it now. So if you will have like any technical difficulties or something, just feel free type like down below. Okay, I see. Yeah, it's got a bit. So hello and welcome, guys. I have a huge topic for you today, and I hope you will dig it because this is something I gathered throughout the years, and this is like based on my personal experience. It's based on my involvement in the Angular community, so it took me like quite a while to gather all of those. I try to simplify them and just bring to you guys and explain what, why, when, and how should you use like in different like scenarios. All of those, everything that I will show you today will be like strictly practical. Those are production ready scenarios and situations that I had and had to resolve and learn and evolve, and yeah. So I would like to first of all ask you guys to be as much involved as possible. I don't know, like it's kind of complicated. I cannot see you, right? But I would like you to be involved in the presentation as well. I would like you to share information with you guys. So please don't hesitate. Just write down below in the, or like on the right side where you have the comment section. My colleagues, they will help you with answering those questions. If there will be like something related to the slides or something, I will try to check it as well and answer you. So this will be like two-way communication, okay? Talking about the agenda. So basically, we've tried to separate it in two different parts. First one is the best practices. By best practices, I mean basically day-to-day stuff that we should use and maybe some stuff that we should avoid during like writing our code specifically using Angular framework. And afterwards, we will take a look at some design patterns in Angular that there are. And honestly speaking, a lot of that stuff is not strictly related to Angular. Something is like more general, but most of it related to the core framework and stuff like that. So without further ado, this is me. I guess I know some of you guys because like that's not my first time here in RollingScopes. Thank you for having me, by the way. Yeah, my name is Alexei, and I'm a developer here at EPAM Poland. I'm used to call myself a web enthusiast, so I've been doing like web apps since like, I don't know, like maybe 11 years or so. So this is my kind of field of expertise, and I really love to share it with you guys. Before we will start, can you please tell me, guys, some of you, do you have like any understanding of Angular, or maybe you're an expert and would like to challenge me, or maybe you don't know nothing about it and you're like a beginner, please like use the chat window that you have on YouTube and give me some answers.
Oleg, please take into account that there's time lag between what you start.
I know. So
yeah, it will be like 15 minutes, 15 seconds. Sorry.
Yeah, we have a delay. And by the way, while we are waiting for the answers, I would like Pavel to just let me know when you will have some statistics or something. But we will begin. So basically, even before you will start coding in the framework as well, there are a lot of things to consider. And I want to highlight like a couple of them. So basically, the one that you can see on the screen right now, I will give you some time to read and walk through the bullet points and specifics of it. But basically, what it means, like in Angular 0.9, the version 9 introduced the strict flag. It was like an optional back in the days. Right now, you can use it basically as a true by default. But still, you should remember about it. Just to keep it simple, strict flag is something like strict flag in JavaScript or in TypeScript. Basically, it adds quite a lot actually, limitations for you as a developer to make mistakes. It does like strong template checking. It does a lot of stuff. It like force you not to use like any type and stuff like this. There's like a whole list of it. But basically, if you don't want to dig deep into it, please remember, just basically use the strict flag, and you will be just type safe, template safe, and you will have less bugs. It will be much more complicated during the development process, but then when you will feel the flow, it will be like much more easier in the big run, like in a bigger picture. It will help you and decrease like a quantity of bugs, maybe like twice or like 3 times. Yeah. So, yeah.
So, so we have some answers.
Sure.
Well, so I doubt that this will help you a lot, because we have quite people from the junior positions. We have here experience. We have even an expert here. I hope he will maybe answer some questions down the road. And we also have a bunch of people who just like starting learning the Angular.
Cool. Okay, sure. So
deal with it.
For the experts right there, maybe you will even help us to answer the questions that junior developers will have. Just as Pavel mentioned, the RollingScopes is a huge welcoming community. We help each other. So yeah, please feel free. So yeah, as you can see right here, I've just specified the strict flag during the generation of my application, and that's it. You don't have to do nothing else. It will add some flags in the TypeScript compiler and other compilation files that are out there in Angular, but you shouldn't worry about it. Just add this simple flag right here, and that's it. Next one. So for those of you who are not familiar, and this one, as I said, this is not Angular specific. This is TypeScript specific. So basically, we have the system of imports and exports, right, in ES5 modules, in TypeScript modules, which are like ES6 modules. And from time to time, and honestly, in this specific scenario, this config should be changed like 95% of the time. I haven't been involved in any project that didn't use this kind of configuration. Just not to talk a lot about it because it's pretty straightforward. Those are aliases. Aliases for some specific folder that you need to use. In our case, those basically the environment variables right here and the application itself. If you're using like React, same stuff. If you're using React with TypeScript, I mean. Same stuff, you're just adding a couple of aliases to any folders you like. But this thing right here, I will share the slide with you guys using the email or using the RollingScopes site. You will be able just to copy paste it, but feel free, just take a screenshot. This configuration right here, I use like 99% of the time, like on each project. And it helps a lot. It simplifies importing, exporting modules from places. So yeah, that's pretty straightforward. Moving on. So yeah, For those of you who may be new to Angular or maybe using some visual tools, the CLI, the command line interface, brings a lot of possibilities to you as a developer, and you basically can avoid a lot of mistakes. I don't want to like deep into all those commands that you can see on the screen, but basically, even like using the generate flag, the generate command in the CLI will force you to use the exact specific syntax that Angular schematics provides. So you don't need to do anything extra. Just type ng-generate module component service guard, whatever, like you name it, it can do it. So as well, like for running app, serving app, building app, adding some extra dependencies if they support schematics. But honestly, like schematics is whole another talk for a couple of hours. Really cool stuff that Angular provided like 2 years ago, I guess. So yeah, you can like add UI elements. You can add like PWA specification for your application and stuff. So that's pretty cool. Moving on. So yeah, right now let's talk about development itself. So okay, imagine the situation. You have a task to build like login component, to build like, I don't know, some list of users, whatever, like to-do app, you name it. So there should be a mindset of separating and decompositioning the functionality to dumb and smart components. Now, I would like maybe not an experts, but maybe more junior developers. Can you write in the chat down below, do you know what a dumb or smart component is? And please use like 6 words maximum. That will be like a challenge. Don't use like, you can read it on the screen, but can you explain it in your words? What means like dumb components, like stupid or whatever, and a smart component? And I will, while you're typing, I will just give you an example. Maybe it will help you. Yeah, Pavel, if you will have any interesting answers, just feel free to interrupt me and just voice out those answers if you will find them interesting, okay?
Okay.
So, right here, I'm giving you an example of a smart component. Basically, at the top, you have the description what smart component and dumb component is, but in simple words, the smart component is a component that has any kind of business-related logic, or maybe infrastructure-related logic, based on your needs. In this example, what do I have here? I'm injecting the HTTP service inside of a constructor, and on the initialize method of the Angular, I'm using the get. I'm getting the list of repositories, I guess. So this is like the open API. That's why I'm using the get syntax. I have some values. I have a variable. I'm assigning this variable, and assumably inside of the HTML here, I'm just displaying this list or something like that, right? So, and that means that we have a logic inside of the component. Maybe if you're like from the React word, you heard about like higher ordered components that like encapsulate some logic. That's kind of like a different thing, but a bit similar. Something that contains logic. On the other hand, from the dumb component perspective, what dumb component does? It does nothing. Dumb components usually referred as a presentational components as well. So basically, we can create a component that displays a user profile picture. You have like a profile picture, you have a name, maybe like an email or something like that. It doesn't have any logic. It should get the input param, like we have here, like using the input decorator, and that's it, and just display it in the pure HTML. From time to time, mostly you should consider using like the change detection on push strategy, but we will cover it in a couple of next slides, so don't think about it too much right now. So you've got it, right? The smart components, the ones that contains logic, some code that you've written, and presentational or dumb components, the ones that basically just represents the representation layer. They're just showing you something, that's it. Maybe some logic related to displaying information, some buttons, whatever, but nothing related to the logic or to the data itself. Pretty straightforward, right?
Yes, so like we have a few good answers here on the chat. I think most of people get it. Like
Okay,
probably all
that's perfectly fine. Yeah.
Yes. Dump is just, I see props. Wow, look, like I click on something, but I don't know what to do with them. Yeah, this is the best comment, so I read it out. Yeah, we encourage you guys to write everything. I don't see many answers regarding smart components, so try paraphrase this smart component.
That's cool that
Yeah.
we are on the same page, guys. Perfect. So let's move on. One more thing. So remember, I've been talking about the LSS in TypeScript. So barrels is something similar, or other way around. This is the same thing that should be used in combination with LSS. So rarely I can see like barrels without LSS, but I mean, like, it depends. But still, you will use them in the same place, totally together, combined. Let's take a look what it means. So in the example, what I have here, let's take a look. I have this module right here, empty module for now, in this auth directory called auth module. I have a core module in core directory. I have like a shared module in shared directory. So what I'm doing here, and look, I'm creating the index.ts file inside of the modules directory, which means I'm creating a barrel. Barrel, like barrel like for beer or any kind of like liquid. So I'm creating this barrel and I'm re-exporting. That's the main phrase here. I'm re-exporting everything that I've got from this file, and from this file. So it's not specific to modules in any way. It's just TypeScript specific. Any kind of TS file is a module itself. Like, it could be like component, it could be like a service, it could be module in this case, whatever. Like, we're re-exporting everything on the level, like on the like lower level. Why should we do that? Let me show you. Oh yeah, it works. So, and then, for example, in case if I will not have any barrels, what will I do? I will just import one module, second module, like third module, 5, 10 modules, whatever, in my app module. It will look like this. But if I will have a barrel right here, I will tell TypeScript, you know what? Take a look at the module directory. If there is like any TypeScript file in there, maybe it exports something. And it does. And it exports those 3 modules. And I will just basically import them. I can even do this one-liner in one single line, whatever. And you can see how much easier it is. And please just imagine right now, you have a huge legacy project, Angular project. And yes, that's a thing, legacy Angular project, even though this is a quite new framework, I would say. So you have a lot of components, a lot of modules, like hundreds lines of code, and you need to just clean it up. You can imagine you will have 30 lines of import in a single file. And honestly, I've seen it on production. And I had to refactor everything to add those indexes. In terms of responsiveness of the application, it doesn't do nothing. TypeScript is pretty smart, so it will do everything for you. It will just basically give you this more like beautiful, whatever, import syntax, right? And what I said that you can use it with the LSS as well. So basically, instead of just using this relative path right here, you can use the LSS add app and just add in the, like here, for example, it would be cool, add app/modules. And it's so easy to read, right? I know, okay, I have some folder somewhere called modules, some directory, and I'm just having everything there. So, okay, it's pretty understandable, pretty clear in this example. And when it comes to big applications, this is something you should have. It's not possible to work without it, honestly, like, based on my experience. Moving on. Yeah, I will not just tell something specific about this one, but remember, George Martin, I guess, said that nowadays, like in 2020, we are mostly spending like 90% of our time to read somebody's code rather than writing our own code. And yeah, that's the way it is. So during writing code, you're always doing some annotations. Code annotation, this function will return me the backend value for like username or something. This function will recalculate something, and you're doing this annotation, right? Using JSDoc or any other like specific documentation. The thing that I came up with, and not personally, this is not my thing, but this is a community thing. Just add readmes in main folders of your application, on the level of feature modules, on the level of like core services, for example, on the level of app itself. And then for new developers, it will take you like, I don't know, 10 minutes if you created a new component, right? Add the documentation. You can call it a documentation in this case, right? In readme in the same file, in the same directory. It will take you like 15 minutes. You will write what this component all about, and it will help. It will help even you when you will come back in half a year to this component, okay, and you will need to remember what it does. And you will already have the documentation. So the same thing, when you do an annotation for your code, the same thing goes with the folders and the structure. In this case, you can see I did it like for modules. And I said, okay, this folder contains all modules, give a link to Angular, official Angular documentation, what modules are. Maybe somebody that doesn't know. Somebody came from React. There's nothing like modules in React. So, okay, you can just use the link. You can just have a list of main like modules, what they do and stuff like that. So that's pretty helpful. Please consider using this approach. And by the way, like if you will take a look at GitHub, at Angular main repository, they use the same approach as well. Not everywhere, but like from time to time. Yeah, depends like on whom you're working for. So if you're like in a huge organization or something, please consider adding like licenses to your code, because people used to forget. There are like plugins for that, but that's something that you should do when you're working like in a huge organization that has like some license policies and stuff like that. Pretty straightforward, right? Nothing to consider right now. So yeah, for the folder structure, I know that's funny, right? That's pretty straightforward and understandable for everybody. But please like remember, like I for sure, I guarantee that half of you had this situation when they're coming and trying to search for some like components in any language, even in any framework, whatever. Like, and they cannot find it because like one folder, second folder, name is like just not readable. Like the structure is like ununderstandable, and yeah. So basically, this is the structure I came up with. This is not something like community specific. This is something I've been using for years now. Just use pretty straightforward, like, okay, separating modules, feature modules. Inside of modules, you should separate it based on component level. Inside of the components, you can separate it maybe on some more specific logic and stuff like that. Please do that. Don't put everything in one folder. Don't put everything in the app. I've seen projects when you put everything inside of the app directory. That's so annoying and unnecessary, I would say. Okay, let's move on. Yeah. Before, I will give you like a couple of seconds, maybe 10, 20 seconds just to read through this. But if you don't want to, like myself, I'm too lazy. So please read the highlighted text right here. This is something related not only to Angular, but like to React, to Vue.js, and stuff like that. This is something that can basically make your application obsolete right from the start. You will have a greenfield project if you don't have understanding and this mindset of unidirectional data flow. That will be like the end of the project, honestly. So if you just guys, can you give me a thumbs up or something? Do you feel that you understand what unidirectional data flow is? And could have explained it to me like in 2 sentences or whatever. Just don't hesitate, write in the chat window down below or like on the right side for streaming, depending on which device you are. So, are you feeling comfortable like saying, yeah, I do understand what unidirectional data flow is, why it is the way it is, and how to basically avoid this annoying Angular error expression change after it has been checked. Yeah, and people there was so many answers and incorrect answers, by the way, in Stack Overflow. I would suggest you to read the article in Angular in Deep. I will give you a link after the presentation. There's one guy called Max. He's a huge deal in Angular community. And he does explain this very well, the best article that there is. So to understand why it is the way it is, how change detection works and stuff like that. So basically, Paul, do we have like any answers?
Surely we do. Yes, we have a few answers. I think this may be a bit confusing for people who just started with Angular. However, this small one-sentence reply, they should give them a picture of that. Let's not get into details about that. So you can move on probably.
Okay, I will move on, but basically, yeah, this is about the event propagation, about how the components should interact between each other. Because, yeah, we can run in huge problems and the display issues. This is whole another topic. So, by the way, like, if you will be interested in any topic that we are just covering here, like for a couple of seconds and stuff like that, please don't hesitate to write into the chat window. The organizers of RollingScopes community have the list. Maybe we can organize the separate talk, because unidirectional data flow is whole another talk, like for a couple of hours. Moving on, something more interesting and I would say not that common in Angular community. I don't know why, but remember I told you that you should consider using on-push change detection strategy if you understand how it works, if you're feeling comfortable of using this change detection strategy. So basically what it does, in short terms, just not to complicate stuff, it will not run the change detection cycle for this component if the input params that we have right here, and this, honestly, I do apologize, this is a bad example. It would be better to pass some kind of like object here rather than link, but array works the same way. If basically when the change detection will run throughout the component 3, and it will just run change detection for each component. You remember, like in Angular, for each component we have change detector class, and it will just detect changes. We'll try to compare the current view state and current component state, and if so needed, to re-render it. In React terms, maybe re-render, but yeah, make the reflow, repaint, everything. But if we will know that our DOM component should only represent some kind of a state, it will not change nothing, should be only changed if the whole object changed, rather than the one property like the username or like email was changed. Then it said, okay, you know what, don't run change detection on my component, but rather run the change detection only if the whole input param will be changed. It will just basically compare the reference to the objects that we are sending to this DOM component. But as well, you should remember, if we can just set the on-change push strategy everywhere right now, and your application will basically start working. I mean, it will start repainting, because the application will not understand, okay, you know what, the reference was not changed. Okay, I will not refresh your UI. Why should I? So that is why I'm telling you that you should basically feel comfortable with using on-push change detection strategy, and you should understand how it works and what it does. It shouldn't be used in any component, but if it will be used wisely, then basically you can improve your performance like 2-3 times. Yeah, and that's like based on my experience. Just like playing around with the 2, 5, 6, 10 components, the application will like work smoothly as it is. But that's, as I said, whole another topic about the change detection in Angular. So once again, there is a library called Rxjs, right? Whom of you is like familiar at least with Rxjs? Just write in the chat window right now. If not, that's pretty much okay. I will just explain you in 3 words what it does. Just observers, subscribers, and that's it. If you're familiar with like observer pattern, maybe publisher subscriber pattern and stuff like that, that's basically pretty much describes the whole library. I mean, not quite, but yeah, but still. And when we are trying to get some data in Angular, mostly we're doing like async calls to the backend, or maybe any other like computations, or reading the file or something. But mostly, yeah, let's be clear here, we're doing like some backend calls. And we are getting an observable. Observable is something that I can call like a good promise, because like, yeah, promises is something like native in JavaScript, but observables is something much more powerful. And when you will understand this library, it will give you like limitless possibilities to use. But one thing to remember, and this is a huge pain and could become a huge issue for your application when your application grows. Can you please tell me in this slide? I will just do it this way. I will ask you guys, can you please tell me why should I use the async validator pipe in this case, in this scenario? Why I can just use the subscribe method for this observable inside of the ngn of init? But what kind of problems? Why did I state it here that you can have memory leaks for this particular observable? How do you think? I do eager to hear from you. Paul, please take a look. If somebody will answer correctly, that will be perfect. If not, you can guess. You can just think about it. Like, think through it like together. Why should the observable stream of data can just generate memory leaks, and why we should use a sync pipe here? While still you're typing, because for those who knows, you know. But basically, when we're subscribing, which means, okay, let's listen to this data stream right here. When it will be like populated, I will get the data, I will just display it or do something with it and stuff like that. But okay, but what then? But we need to unsubscribe from this, because observable is an object. And we just listening to it, listening. But for example, let's imagine I'm just changing the route. I need to unsubscribe. Remove this reference from this object, then the like just garbage collection cycle and stuff, it will just destroy this object if nobody is listening to it. So basically, the async pipe does it for you. So you don't need to manually subscribe, unsubscribe, use variables and stuff like that. Async pipe does it for you. I mean, it depends on the complexity of your component, but in this case, we just have all those repositories that we're getting like from the GitHub API, and we just displaying them in this list, simple list. So basically, if you will take a look at the source code of async pipe in Angular Common Library, so it basically does whatever. I will show you the pattern, how to like use it manually, but it does it for you. It will subscribe, it will get data, it will listen till the observable will be finished, completed, and it will just close and unsubscribe for it. And by the way, interesting fact, I didn't know that, but in the source code, I found it that I was just walking through the async pipe. It does the same stuff with promises. So if you have some promise from any, like, I don't know, like any maybe old school library or something, because it's not something common that you use in Angular app, promises. But yeah, async pipe works as well. You will not write then and stuff like that. So yeah, it does everything for you.
Okay, Oleg, we have a question for here.
Sure,
we
go
have
ahead.
few good answers as well, but we also finally got some question. Why? No, come back to the previous slide.
This one, right? And I can see the question about this side right here, right?
Yeah, exclamation mark. Why did you put there?
Okay, so basically, with the exclamation mark and with this unknown type as well, I'm eager to say, whom of you knows what unknown is? This is the new syntax. I will just explain it to you because we have limited amount of time. So basically, back in the days, we used any for types because if you are like from JavaScript world, because I have a huge experience in strongly typed languages like C# and stuff like that. So I used to have types. But if you're just from JavaScript and you don't know what types is and you're like kind of annoyed of writing those types, we used to use any type in TypeScript. But any types is not type safe. It doesn't give you, it's just basically like a pure JavaScript. So you're not using the functionality of a TypeScript here. So, and in TypeScript 3.0 version, they come up with something typed unknown and this exclamation point right here, which I will explain in a second. So type unknown is a type safe type for any type, if that makes any sense. So in short words, you can read about it in the internet, but please don't use any. Use unknown, because Angular compiler with the strict flag. You remember the strict flag from the first slide or second slide? So the strict flag will not let you use any, not a chance. You should use unknown. That's type safe any, if you can call it like that. But read in the internet about this. But this thing right here, which basically will force you. I mean, in this case, if you will set it, it will not force you. But each variable inside of the component should be initialized. That's the whole thing. If you don't want to initialize it, because to be honest, not everything should be initialized. For example, the observable, empty observables and stuff like that, no, they shouldn't be initialized. So you just set in this exclamation point that this could be initialized. You shouldn't write here like equals, some like, you can do it like for numbers, for booleans, for like arrays, okay, but not for observables. So this means you can leave it like this. But because if you will remove it and you have a strict flag in your Angular application, it will not work. It will not compile, basically. So did you got it? Because I'm not. Yeah, I have a delay on.
I got it. Thank you. Probably I will read more about this. This is very interesting.
Yeah, this is the cool thing. Please read about unknown and this exclamation point in TypeScript 3.0. So let's move along. So yeah, ng containers, ng templates. I was kind of surprised that a lot of developers doesn't know what it does and how to use it, and that there are something like ng templates, ng container, like router outlet, ng template ref, and stuff like that. Those are pretty good things to generate basically like more readable HTML markup and stuff like that. And not only. So let me give you an example. Just have a second, take a look at those two examples. The one on the top and the one on the bottom. Do you know, guys, try to figure out, like, I mean, it looks the same, like, you know, the same logic, the same like ng if statement. What could be the use case for using the ng container instead of if? How do you think? Do you have like any idea? Just while I'm explaining, please write your thoughts in the chat window. Basically, I'm a huge, how to call, like, I hate div wrappers. Even though like we all are developers who like to use JavaScript, TypeScript, Angular, React, I myself, I'm a huge fan of HTML and CSS. Seriously, I can just spend hours doing this CSS. By the way, like if you are a CSS fan as well, just give it like a thumbs up or something in the chat window, because yeah, that's not a lot of people like us. I do like to just tweak around with the HTML, CSS and stuff like that, just doing layouting and yeah. And in this case, yeah.
So like you will know that there's more people like you out there.
Yeah.
Because I only know you who really loves CSS and HTML.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. Like, yeah.
Oh come on, I'm a big fan as well. You can do wonders in CSS.
Cool, okay, I'm kind of joking. Yeah, but yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so in this case, if you know how the asterisk symbol works in Angular, it will just basically generate the template outside of the, but that's not the thing. If the open property will be truly, it will basically say, yeah, open equals true. In this case, we will generate this whole thing right here. We will have div, we will have something inside of it, and so forth. But if we will use ng container, it will not generate nothing. No extra HTML markup, only the things inside of the container. The word itself, container, it contains something that should be shown. And mostly, the ng container should be used with the structural directives like ngIf, ng-switch, ng-for. There will be a couple of examples in the next slide. I will show you. So what I want to avoid by this, because I do afraid of something like this. This called div hell. I don't know, like I just made it up. So when you have a lot of this wrappers, then you have like a huge CSS as well, because you need to like specify something specific or doing IDs or something. Please use like semantic markup and decompose the components to the smaller chunks. And what will help you in this case? ng container. Honestly, like we have a couple of patterns using the ng container. We will have like in the second part of the presentation. But yeah, please consider using those. Yeah, this one kind of arguable. Let me just show you all of the examples. This is something I came up with personally. If you have like huge legacy projects, please consider leaving lifecycle events of the component as clear, as tidy as possible. I'm not saying that you should just do the way I did it here in the example, as you can see, right? For example, this method, even though we should just give it like this responsibility to a service rather than, but we can create a method called get repositories. And rather than calling it inside the ng on init, we should just create some get repositories method and just call it here. It's okay to execute 1, 2, 3 methods inside of the lifecycle event. But honestly, when you're debugging, when you have some issues with the application, it's good to have all your lifecycle methods. As you remember, the like 8 of them, right? Depending on what kind of component you have, like the content in it, the after child in it, and those kind of methods like constructor on init, do check, and stuff like that. So please just consider separating everything from lifecycle events, event hooks. Those are not really hooks, but like lifecycle events. Yeah. The way you like it, just this is like my example. I just did it like this. Okay.
Oleg?
Yeah.
What about on destroy?
Yeah, the same thing. So if you have any logic on ng on destroy, the same stuff. Just do some method that clean everything up. And what will basically help you when you will see the component. You will see, for example, in my current project, I have components for like 500 lines of code. And you should read like how it works in terms of like lifecycle events. But if you will have those events tied, like somewhere at the top, you can see, okay, I'm doing something on the initialization. Okay, afterwards, I'm cleaning things up. Okay, I got it. And then you don't need like to know what's happening inside of the methods, but you want to know the lifecycle of events. So yes, inside of the ng on destroy, I will show you in the couple of slides afterwards. Yeah, you should use it the same way. That's a good point, Pavel. Thank you. Just quickly, we don't have much time. So use the modules inside the Angular. I've seen huge apps, production apps, huge ones, with the one single like app module and everything just put inside it. And I just like realized, okay, are you like from React background or something? Because yeah, as you know, like in React, we don't have modules. Please read about the modules. In the official documentation, it's pretty enough to understand. But let me tell you in simple words, as less words as possible. Consider like a module as a container that contains some, I just highlighted here, closely related set of capabilities, of business logic, of features. Let's say we have a admin module, we have report module, and stuff like that, just separated by modules, like a folders, like containers, you know. And yeah, and so some good practices about core and shared module. This is something you must have. Each tutorial that you will find somewhere on Stack Overflow, on YouTube, or whatever, will say shared modules and core modules. To keep it short, core modules, the core modules should contain some unique services, like, I don't know, like cookie service, local storage service, like adding Google Analytics service, something like that, authentication and stuff. But share module at the same time should contain something like UI components, super button, like subscribe button, or like grid, or like whatever, you know, like this kind of thing that used everywhere, like layout components, like kind of like this ng bootstrap library, which I don't encourage you to use, but yeah, you know, so something like that. If you have something with the business logic, it should be separated in the feature module. That's for sure. But don't forget about core module, shared module. People used to use like common module and different kind of stuff. But those two are like with us like for, I don't know, like for like past 5 years or something. And this is the best practice of using modular system in Angular. So moving on. Yeah.
Oleg, Just quick question from the audience. Are you going to talk something about tree shaking?
I mean, not right now, but while you asked, so basically, for those of you who doesn't know what tree shaking is, basically, imagine you're shaking a tree, right? And like apples or some fruits just are falling from that tree, and the tree becoming lighter, right? I don't have any specific about the tree shaking in the slides, but just let's spend a couple of seconds explaining that. And basically, Angular is doing tree shaking while you're doing like a production build. So basically, in terms of a code, what it does, it just like checks unused code, just remove that. So if you have some import that you didn't use, it will remove that. If you're, for example, importing the whole library, and this library is in ES6 modules, written in exports modules in ES6 syntax, it will just remove everything you're not using, even though you just imported the whole library, for example. It will just remove everything, and your bundle will become like, I don't know, like 10 times smaller. But it doesn't work for common JS modules. You should remember that. We have like in Angular config, you can specify that, for example, like Lodash, jQuery, like a lot of those kind of libraries which are written in common JS module style, those are not tree shakeable. So basically, it's the way to make your bundle smaller, just in few words. But yeah, I do apologize. If you're interested in this topic, please ask organizers. Maybe we'll have another event, and yeah, we will talk more deeply in some specifics. But yeah, getting back to the forms right here. So basically, when the forms, they should be implemented, I guess, like in each second application there are. Always will have like login form, like some sort of input into our application. And I highly encourage you, and this is honestly the best practice that Google asks you and Angular team asks you to follow. Use reactive forms instead of template-driven forms. By the way, like guys, can you please tell me, do you know the difference between reactive forms and template-driven forms? Use like 5 words max. That's a challenge. And Pavel, if you will see something interesting, just voice it out. So while we're waiting for answers, the answer in short terms is the React forms are based on event-driven model and on data stream model. So basically, everything that is happening with the form is happening based on events. So the value was changed, and everything is propagated step by step using basically the event stream. And when you're using template-driven forms, which are basically using the ng model, if you use banana in the box, right? Ng model syntax, you know how it does. So basically creating an object, and you are assigning all the inputs to this object, just binding them, which is not really handy. It's not flexible at all, and it's really hard to do validation and stuff like that. Just interact with the data, and don't combine those. Currently on my project, we are trying to rewrite everything from template-driven forms to React forms. It's not really that easy, but it gives like, you're just removing like chunks of code. But once again, like this template-driven forms, a whole another topic for another time. So I do apologize, we're running out of time. So yeah, and when you're using the reactive forms in Angular, basically, please consider using this helper class here, form builder. It will basically help you to build your form, because if you used it before, like you should create a new form group, new form control, assign one to another. And if you have like this kind of, I will not call it I will call it declared form rather than just dynamic, rather than static. So declared form like this, for example, email and password, and that's it. Just you use it like this, pretty handy syntax. Once again, for those who answered, like as you can see here, I have this exclamation point as well, because I cannot like initialize the form group by something empty. So it's okay to use it for now. Yeah, so let's move on. We have a couple of slides left. So yeah, please don't combine declarative and imperative validators. Even though for most people, when you're using like inputs, it's okay to write like require and that's it, right? It's kind of like natural because require is in HTML5 specification, for example, like as an attribute. But please don't mix those together because like you don't have everything in terms of like declarative approach. You have like a pattern, you have required, and that's kind of it, I guess. You have min, max for like number input, and that's it. But if you're using reactive forms, you have these validators right here. The validators array, you can add as much as you can, like require, min value, max value, some patterns or regex, I mean, something else. You can write custom ones. And I do encourage you, before writing your custom validation, take a look at this validator's source code in GitHub repo. It's pretty like, it's not big, it's like 100 lines of code or something. It's written in a good way and just follow this way. It's so perfect, so don't just try to come up with something your own, because yeah, this one is written really, really good. So yeah, once again, you can add async validator, something that, okay, I will check does this user exist on the backend or something, whatever validation you will think of, sync, async, everything in one place. And by the way, you know how they will run, because here you can read in this side of the documentation, they will run one by one. But if you're using them like in attributes, like a directives here, I'm not sure there is a guarantee that they will run one by one, for example. But if you know more, just let me know. I'm not really familiar. But here you have a guarantee. You have like this pipeline of validation and stuff like that. So yeah, please do consider using that. Okay, pretty straightforward one. If you're using services in Angular, please don't do any manual dependency injection mapping by yourself. The provided in root param in services came up with Angular version 8 or 9. Version 8, I guess. So since then, please don't ever just do any other like dependency injection mapping in this providers array if you know for your own written services. You will still use providers like for like HTTP interceptors, guards, and stuff like that. But if you're using like, for example, your data service and stuff like that, and you want it to be accessible everywhere, and you don't want to like lose memory while just playing around with the dependency injection stuff, if you're not familiar how it works under the hood, because this one is a separate topic as well, please consider using provided in root in services. Yeah, just don't manipulate with the DOM directly, because that's bad. I would eager to hear you. Why should we do this kind of overkill instead of using document DOM directly for like, I don't know, like adding some styles or just removing like elements or stuff? How do you think? Why should we do that? And why should we use dependency injection in the first place? That's a hint. But either way, like while you're typing, just Paul, if there would be something interesting, just let me know. Please use it like this. This is like Control-C, Control-V, just use it like this. This is something standard. Even, I guess, you have it in the documentation. Please ask Angular to inject the document object for you, rather than using the just document dot something. The same rule applies here. Please, Angular encourage you to not manipulate with the DOM directly in any way, shape, or form. But if you need it, if you have some like jQuery plugins, or you have something like that somewhere in your code, and you need to add some like events, whatever, or maybe you want to add some scripts dynamically, please consider using this renderer. Like previously, without the Ivy compiler, we had like just renderer. And then when they created a new compiler, they knew they need to write a different renderer. They just renderer to, that's the worst name that you can think of, and confuses people. But yeah, just please use it like this. As you can see, the syntax is pretty much the same append child like you use in Vanilla.js. but don't manipulate with the DOM directly. Please remember that. Entry components. I will not speak about those. I don't think we can skip it. But in Angular 10, you can just forget about registering the entry components. Before the Ivy compiler and everything, we had to register the components that will be not declared, created not declaratively, but rather dynamically. So if we have like some pop-up or like a toast notification or like hints or something like that, that will be created dynamically, that shouldn't be on the markup. In this case, Angular will just reshake it, the one somebody asked. It will reshake it, it will just remove it previously, right there. Or you should tell Angular, you know what? It is an entry component. It's something that will be created dynamically somewhere in the future. Just leave it as is. Don't touch it. Don't just throw it away. But in Angular 10 plus, Angular is smart enough to just understand that we don't need to register this anymore, but there are like a couple of tweaks. If you want to use shared components inside, you should declare them, which is kind of the same thing as just entry components, just declare them in declarations. So lazy loading. Once again, for those of you who don't know, lazy loading is the way to load your application by chunks. Let's imagine that you're coming to an application you have like reports, you have a dashboard, and you have something else. If you're not routing through reports, you don't need them. You don't need all this code, all those components, all this CSS, everything, right? So you don't just basically load it, but lazy load it. If we're routing here to this reports, please route this module with all the components, everything. Yeah, the navigation will be kind of like, it will not be slow, but it will be like a couple of seconds slower. But the whole application itself will load quickly. Let's imagine you have like 20, 30 modules. You don't need to like load all of them, right? You will load them chunks by chunks. I do apologize. Yeah, I took like 7 minutes more, or we kind of made it. So guys, if you want to grab some water, like or tea or whatever, please feel free to do that. And we will wait till, Pavel, just correct me, Alicia, till 19, for like just basically 10 minutes, right? You'll be able to grab a green, like
Yeah.
just
Thank you,
wrestle or
Oleg.
something. And yeah, we will continue with the second part.
Yeah, just set the timer so it counts down. 10 minutes break for whatever you want. And so see you in 10 minutes.
Yeah, see you in 10 minutes.
Don't be late.
Okay.
Tu już
Okay,
będą paterny.
so welcome back, and right now we will be doing the second part of the meetup, where Alexei will be telling us about design patterns and best practices in Angular. So I would just like point him to you.
A few words from me.
What?
Guys, thank you very much for all your comments. I saw a few with some kind of proposition questions about different things on meetings. That's great that you are writing them. I copied some of the comments with questions. And please, guys, put everything in the chat box you would like to hear about. This is very important for us. This feedback from you actually is very important, so we know what we can prepare for the next talks, and this is great. So we are waiting for you to write whatever you want to hear about. This is actually, it's not about Angular. You can write from different fields, whatever you want to hear about, just put there. Thank you. And so, yeah, Alexei, you can continue with your presentation. Thank you.
Wait a second.
Okay,
Because
thank you.
Wait
Thank you.
a second. I need to figure something out.
Technical problems.
No, I just wanted.
We were expecting them.
I wanted it to look more beautiful, and now it looks more beautiful, so it's perfect. Okay. Alexei, the scene is yours.
Yeah, thank you. So I hope you had a coffee break or maybe a tea break. Once again, just thumbs up if you're a tea person, like thumbs down if you're a coffee person. I'm just kidding, like, but still, I'm a tea person myself, so just let us know as well. So as I promised, the second part will be about design patterns. It will be like a smaller part than the first one, because I feel you guys tired. Like, yeah, we've been talking like 1 straight hour once again. So yeah, I will try to keep it short. But I think this part will be much more interesting and much more useful for you guys. So, and we will use a lot of things that we've seen before in previous slides on practice, combined, using like the best approaches that we can like during the development of Angular application. So yeah, this pattern, and by the way, yeah, all the names of those patterns are all mine, so I just made it up. There are guidance from the community. People are sharing their knowledge and practices, but honestly, there are no names or something. So you can find this pattern used all around the world in different projects, but there is no such name as page wrapper. I'll just call it like that, or page facade, whatever. So let's let's take a look at the code here. Let's don't rush. Can you please tell me, guys and girls, this component right here, what is, I mean, not wrong, but what's fishy about this component? Can you tell me what's wrong with this component right here? Why is it not like the components we used to do previously? Something is missing. That's a hint. Please write in the comment section. And Pavel, if somebody will write the correct answer, just let me know. And let's spend like 10 seconds, just walk through the code that we'll have in different sections, because those are like three different files. This like a component, this one is in component HTML markup, and this one is app routing, if you have routing in your application. So I cannot see, do we have like a correct answer, but still, let's check it.
Yes, yeah? We have it. Yes.
Okay, so yeah, guys, you've been correct. If we don't have a selector here, I'm not talking about the empty component, something. We don't have a selector here. So okay, but wait, you will ask me like, how is it possible based on the fact that all the components and everything is declarative in Angular? And we're basically doing this declarative mode. We're declaring like a selector, like custom tags, if you will. So, but we don't have a selector here in this component. How can it be created, and why in the first place, right? And let me tell you something. So basically, if we're talking about routing, take a look at this file right here, not this code section. So basically, if we're using a routing and something, remember I told you there are dynamically created components. So Angular basically will have this map object, whatever you call it, where we can, okay, when we are routing to the dashboard right here, please dynamically create this component. And basically, if you have only one router outlet, it will just render it like underneath the router outlet. And that's it. We are not declaring this component nowhere. So we're creating it dynamically. But if we will have this selector here, we will be able to create it dynamically, which is an issue. It's an error, basically, because this component doesn't meant to be created. This is a component that's used for routing only. For small projects, it could look like an overhead, like overkill. Why should you do that? But in huge components, you will be able to separate the component, those kind of components, page components. I call them page components, and the community calls them page components as well, as you can see here in the name. This is a dashboard page. If we want to navigate to dashboard, we should wrap the components that you can see here. We created it declaratively. We declared it inside of as a HTML tag, custom HTML tag. But the component that is responsible for navigating to this, like not context, but like this view component, is separated. We're not able to create him declaratively, but the router will be creating it dynamically, and we are separating concerns. Do you guys remember separating of concerns, like principle, like design principle, whatever? Please separate like everything into two different responsibilities. First one is navigation, and that's it. This component is responsible only for navigating. And it shouldn't like contain, even from time to time, it cannot contain like this CSS or something. But for example, in this particular example, I just did it with this kind of wrapper. For example, it can contain navigation logic, like back button, right? This is nothing specific to dashboard. So why should we put navigation logic inside of the component that will display a dashboard or a list of users, of orders, or whatever? Always, please, for navigation, create these page wrappers. I call them page wrappers. You can call them page facade. I've been participating on ngConf Poland this year, and they call it something like facade, like a facade pattern in object-oriented programming. So they call it like a facade pattern, and even they call it like approach rather than pattern. But yeah, you see like what's the benefit here? We are separating the navigation logic, putting it like outside of the component, which should be. And remember about the single responsibility principle from the Solid 5 principles, right? There should be only one reason to change the component or a class or whatever. Like in terms of Angular, it's a component. So if I need to change navigation, why should I change the dashboard component which contains something like display logic or something? You get it, right? You can see how it's useful. It's so easy. It's just a simple wrapper that contains navigation logic. And by the way, like during this patterns section, I would ask you guys to ask any questions related to each pattern if you have so. So if you have any maybe suggestions, or maybe you want to say like this pattern doesn't make any sense, I'm eager to hear your comments, guys. Please let know like in the comment section down below, and Paul will help me if somebody will like to discuss this page wrapper, or maybe you see some improvements that can be done here and you want to contribute to this pattern, or you think it's useful or useless, or like, yeah, just any kind of reaction, please don't hesitate. Once again, the wrapper that separates the navigation logic from the view logic or whatever.
So far, so good, Alexi. Nobody called any names on you.
Cool.
For
But
this
guys, like,
pattern.
highly encourage you to use this one. It's good. It saves like like, I don't know, hours of debugging what's right, what's wrong, and yeah, single responsibility, guys. Keep that in mind.
Or maybe another question I would ask, guys, have you met this pattern in your projects before? Have you worked with this kind of approach in your project? Please comment.
Yeah, maybe if you did had it, or maybe you had a different variation of it, because as I said, I was kind of surprised, but yeah, some people use it as a facade or something. Facade. I just call it like page wrapper, like, yeah, navigation wrapper, like, yeah, navigation logic container, like, you name it. Yeah. Okay, so if we don't have like any questions related to this one, let's move to the next one. Okay, the pattern I called store. There is honestly, this one is pretty popular. If you're like from the Angular world, you've used this like all over the place. But before I will show you the example, I know like most of you, I guess you know this pattern already. But yeah, let's please, can you just answer at least like yourselves? Do you understand what state management is? And why we need state management? Honestly, as you know, just state management is a huge deal. It's a separate topic, like for like, I don't know, like 5 hours or whatever. But basically, there is no single like app, kinda, I guess, that doesn't use some library or some approaches for state management. So if you kind of like wrap this up, just take everything you know about state management and let's take a look at this pattern right here. For those of you who used like React, for example, and you used like Redux and what else, like all those like other libraries that you have in React, or maybe in Angular you used NGRX, this one will be quite similar. I will tell you about drawbacks about this one, what it does, and as well benefits of it. So first of all, please know that before using this pattern, you should be familiar with the Rxjs library, with the reactive programming. Maybe you can read about the observer pattern, like publisher subscriber pattern and stuff like that. This event-driven design kind of approach to building apps and stuff like that. Because right here in the center, we're using the behavior subject. You can see here in the code example right here. We're using the behavior subject, which is basically a lightweight state management by itself. It does everything for you, because as you know, like in React, because React is a library rather than a framework, we don't have nothing like that. And we need Redux, we need all those Redux kind of stuff. I should have bring the state management like schematics here, but yeah, that's a good idea for future. So basically, what do we need and why basically we need state management before we'll start digging into the code? You can just have a sneak peek of it. But let's imagine the situation, because all of our single page apps, they represent like a tree, like a hierarchy of components, right? We have a root components, inside a couple of components, inside those components we have another components, inside those components some other components, and so on and so forth. So, but okay, what if we need to synchronize a state? By state, I mean some value that should be passed from like parent to child, from parent to his grandchild, and so on and so forth. Couple of levels deep. First solution, we have a so-called, in Angular, so-called property drilling. It means that each component should have like an input property, and you just pass in this input property from like from parent to child to his child to his child, and so on. I'm not sure, I will not comment, but this context in React, that's kind of the same stuff, does this property drilling, but I'm not sure, I'm not like React expert in any means. But that's the first option. Second option, yeah, you can use some huge library, which basically will do this pattern, but more sophisticated, more like powerful, yeah, but like huge overkill, a lot of like boilerplate and stuff like that. I would encourage you, if you don't have any experience in state management, start from this pattern right here. Let's walk through it line by line. So first thing, you should understand what behavior subject is. That's I would say like 90% of understanding what this pattern basically means and what it does. Behavior subject is a kind of subject which is a subset of observable in hierarchy. Let's start from the beginning, just briefly. What observable is? I mean, how do you think in terms of like the English language rather than the programming? Observable object, the object that somebody can observe, right? Taking like, I don't know, like any kind of like glasses, something to just observe, right? We have an object that should produce something and we observe and we are waiting for the result. In other words, we are subscribing to an observable. Subjects, on the other hand, and behavior subject is a subset, like kind of more cool brother or like older brother of the observable, because in observable, we can only listen. This is observable could be like a newsletter, right? When the newsletter will just be produced, it will just, everybody will listen and subscribe to it, you know, like you remember we had paper subscriptions or like any other subscription. You will be notified when something will happen, when the new paper will come or like whatever. Like you can subscribe to a YouTube event, right? Then you will be notified, you will be observing the event, and when it will be when it will like start or something, you will be notified. The same thing with the observable, like one-way communication. In behaviors, in subject, just let's forget for a second about the behavior subject. The subject is something that you can listen to and you can write to. That's the main difference between observable and subject, just for beginners. So basically, we can listen to it, but in the other way, we can write it. What does it mean? That means that we have two-way communication between two parties. By two parties, I mean like two components, two services, whatever, modules, you name it. So let's take a look at the example. And behavior subject basically is a subject that should have initial value. Honestly, like if you're interested, just dig deeply like into hot, cold observables, how to use them, like what is like the subscription differences. There are like replay subject, async subject, but that's honestly as well another topic, not for today. So let's just like sum up. Behavior subject is an object that should have an initial value and can write values, can give a possibility to write the values inside him, and give a possibility to listen if there are any new value inside of the subject, right? So once again, I'm creating this subject. For this matter, let's imagine this the business case. I want to show a loader on my application. Something is doing, just showing this full screen loader. Wait, or like application is loading, or whatever. Like your business case is, you're fetching data from the backend, and you want to show this squiggly thing that's loading, right? Okay. So and afterwards we have this find method as observable. So you can see here, this is the private property, something that we're manipulating only inside the service, store service. In this particular scenario, root store service. And we are exporting, by the way, this $sign, for those who don't know, this is just a way to name observables. So please remember about this. Don't name it just loading or something, add $sign at the end. So basically we are exporting it as a observable right here. And we are already the component who will inject this root service to itself will be basically able to listen to this loading property. And I will show you the example afterwards. I hope I have those slides, how to listen to them. But you remember the async pipe that I showed you before? Yeah, it's highly like combined with this pattern as well. So yeah, and afterwards I have this method right here which says set loading. Those are two like helper methods, honestly, that encapsulates the add-in logic inside of it. As you can see here, I told you before that we can write to a subject. We can do this by calling next method. That means, okay, I'm putting next value to you. If somebody is doing something, just notify them, give them the new value. So basically that's it. You can see I can write to not an observable, but to some object. I can write and change this loading state manually by I'm pressing the button, I'm saying, okay, loading is true. But I need to notify everybody. So each component is notified, the one that subscribed basically to this observable here. And that's it. So I'm able to write in and I'm able to listen to. So those are two features of this service, public one. And I have this like just private, my own getters and setters. You can avoid those, but I mean, like everybody does that. You're encapsulating this logic. You can do that in TypeScript, so you should. So for those of you who are familiar with the Redux in React, for example, this single method right here is an action, right? This loading observable, like you can consider it as a select or is a store itself. It could be a whole store because you can have not a Boolean value but an object with different, like for example, username with the email, with the like first name, last name, URL to his like profile picture or something like that. It shouldn't be just a primitive value like Boolean, right? So this could be called like a store. We don't kind of have a reducer here because, as I said, this is lightweight, simplified version of doing stuff. But as well, when using some more sophisticated, more complex objects inside of this pattern, please remember about mutability. Please remember about returning the new value each time. Because other way around it would be quite good. The downsides of this pattern. So the downside of this pattern is that honestly, right now, in this kind of implementation that you can see on the screen, you are not able to create some generic functionality here. If you need another state, for example, this one called loading, I can have state that called data. And as well, this set loading, I will show you in a couple of examples in a couple of minutes how to use kind of effects, if you remember with the Redux terminology. So how to use effects with this pattern as well. So yeah, I kind of lost the point here. Basically, the problem is that you are not able to quickly kind of, it's not really flexible, this kind of service. If you will need to add more state to it, like, as I said, user data or like so something else, like what else can we have, like a list of orders for user or something else, and we keep it inside of the store because we are kind of propagating this data stream to different components. We need it here. We basically will control copy, control, pass like this private variable, this exporting the observable and stuff like that. That's why I can kind of like NGRX library or NGXS. And I remember there is like the third one that is popular. They're doing everything for you. You can create one big object. It will check what's changed and will notify you only if this property was changed. But here, unfortunately, you should do this manually, if you got my point. That's the only downside of this component. But on the smaller projects, on small scale projects, this is something you should have. When you have like 5-10 components and you have like 3 objects of state, for sure you should have it, because you will have a lot of problems doing this property drilling from like root component to like couple of child components, grandchild and stuff like that. That's ugly. And this is the best one. Currently, we're using this approach for all the state management in our app, and our app has like this, my current projects I'm working in, so like maybe 10 modules and maybe like 100 components, and this approach works even for this scale. Not that flexible, but it works. Yeah, took quite a bit for this one. Let's move to the next one.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Oleg,
questions?
but we have questions for this.
Sure.
Should we use this pattern for dynamically created components? For example, to create communication between component and dialog window. Or this is more for global communication?
No,
Because
no.
right now I only see this between services and components logic, but not without. Yeah, go on.
Okay, I've got you. Yeah, yeah, and I do have this like second slide. Just you can take a look how to use it, just as an ordinary service, either like listening to this is loading property, or on button click you can set it and stuff like that. Yeah, the good example, good question. So look, you can use it. The thing is, like, look, you have this service. As you remember, services in Angular, they are singletons, right? In this case, this is a root store, but I highly encourage you to separate your stores, because as you remember in Redux, you have one huge store with all the state you have in it. Personally, I don't like it. That's bad, my own opinion. And you should separate this to smaller services. You shouldn't have like one root store service, for example. In terms of like a model dialog or something, pop-up, you will have a pop-up store service or something like that. And then for example, on button click, right? By the way, we're using this for toast notifications. The kind of the same, almost the same logic. You're pressing the button, something happens, and you just call not set loading, but add notification or something. And then some component, some toast like container or something, it listens to this notification and shows you a pop-up. Or other way around, if you're showing the pop-up, the dynamically created component will start listening to the service. Oh, I have something, maybe some data to display or something. Okay, cool. You're just taking this data and that's it. When I'm just closing my components, I'm unsubscribing from this loading and that's it. So the answer is yes. You can use it everywhere. I'm not propagating. I'm just not preaching that you should use it everywhere just because. No, in the places you should use state management, when you should communicate between components, it works everywhere. Like dynamic components, services can communicate. Different components at different levels can communicate. Services and components can communicate using this service. Yeah, but as well, please remember about. I don't remember the term. The term was something like service mix-up or something. Don't create too much services. That's a bad thing as well. But yeah, I would prefer to separate each logically functionality to those store services. For like admin module, I will have admin store. For like some navigation, I will have navigation store if I needed to. So yeah, and you can do that. Do we have like any other questions, Paul? Or we can move on?
Yeah, I think I have, but this is for me at least it's kind of tricky. I didn't do this. I will read it out. So, but please go ahead if you know something about. Did you get any experience with using state store on a platform injector level, or any use cases for using platform injector at all? So I didn't have this. My proposition was just to take this under account.
Let's take it offline. This is like serious, like specific stuff. I know what you mean, but rarely, honestly, like this is something that you will not face on each project that you will have. And like what I was trying to combine here in this presentation, something that you for sure will use on a daily basis. That's more specific stuff. We can take it offline. Just feel free to contact me using the email. We'll discuss. That's an interesting topic as well. But no, I personally even didn't have like much experience with that.
Yeah, and I'm a bit afraid about the timing. We have only like 15 minutes left.
So let's make it quick. The pattern that I called if else then. My name as well. Just firstly, I guess I've seen Todd Moto. If you guys know, Todd Moto is a Google developer expert. He's kind of into Angular, not always, but yeah, he's been started as an Angular developer. He knows a lot of crazy stuff. I will link you.
And he really likes pizza.
Yeah, and he likes pizza and snowboarding. Yeah. So yeah, he used this way back and didn't call it like a pattern, but this is something that worth considering in the components that will be something like displaying a result component, if you know what I mean. So like, just imagine the component that will have a list, like we always have these CRUD operations, right? Create, read, delete, update. You're entering the orders list or the my shopping bag, whatever, some kind of a list. And mostly there will be 2 states of this component, or even 3 states: displaying the result, displaying that there was no result at all, or maybe displaying, okay, I'm loading right now, wait, fetching the data, something like that. That's like, I don't know, like 80% of the time you will have those kind of components in your application for sure. And from the UI UX perspective, that's a good practice to use something like this. Take a look here. And remember, I've told you, please use ng containers. And here we have a pattern for that. So basically, this just like a small example of, okay, if from our state, for example, we have this situation that is loading, okay, just show this, only one header tag here, but if not, show something else. And in this case, it could be, and here inside we have a logic to show maybe empty, there is no data, but it depends if you got data already, or like show the table or something like that. That's a separated logic. But this ng-if component, I've seen so many like diffs inside diffs where you just have this ng-if because people didn't knew about ng containers. We don't need to generate that much diffs. And this pattern is basically giving it for you, just doing it for you. Okay, if we're loading, show is loading. If not, show this template using the template ref right here. This is the template ref. And you remember that ng template will not be rendered, never, if you will just basically don't call it dynamically, or like this. So if you will take a look at this HTML code in the browser, you will not see this ng template. You will see only comments. You will not see ng container. So that's pretty easy pattern, but pretty useful for, remember, for those displaying the list of something component. Okay, moving on. Yeah, remember this one? I told you about async pipe, about memory leaks, about subscribing, unsubscribing, and stuff like that. This pattern I've met like 3 times maybe, but because people don't know about this subscribing, unsubscribing most of the time. But this one is a bit different. This one says that we will create a basic class. If you're don't know like what inheritance is, that can be quite hard for you to understand. But basically, we should implement this basic logic somewhere in the base class, so to speak. And afterwards, we can inherit this class rather than just writing the code by ourselves. And here, as you can see, we just simply have a list of subscriptions, right? We have a method that called push subscription, add subscription, register subscription, just name it as you want to. Just add whatever, because this this method will be seen in child components, and you should know that okay, it's coming from the unsubscribed parent. Okay, I got it. And afterwards, after ng on destroy, which means like in React we have this unmount, right? So it will say, okay, I'm destroying my component. I need to unsubscribe for all those objects and just free the memory. Or like, we're not freeing the memory by ourselves, but we know that, okay, we're not touching anything. We don't have like weak links to anything. Okay, we good. But when you subscribe, in the subscribe method do I have the example? Yeah. Oh, okay, perfect. I have the example here. So when we are subscribing, the subscribe function returns the type subscription. As you can see here, I just separated those in 2 lines. I'm extending my functionality with the basic functionality of unsubscribe. And it's kind of class, but the strict flag didn't, it will not allow you to use lifecycle events. That's why we have this empty component kind of. that's something to think about and how to maybe improve it. But yeah, compiler does not give you permission to compile it because you have a lifecycle event of component. So it kind of should be a component, even though you don't have like any. By the way, like inheritance of components, a separate interesting topic. Inheritance versus just separation to different services. That's a thing worth considering as well. Okay, I'm kind of mixing it up, sorry. So you have a subscription here. And basically we are using this register subscription method from the base class, from this one, which is basically just adding. I've seen implementation where it takes not a single subscription, but an array of subscriptions. So, okay, you will just basically decomposition this array to whatever. Like I've seen this kind of implementation, but in our case, it's just a single subscription. Just adding it to an array, and we have it here, and we don't need to unsubscribe manually here, and we don't have memory leaks. The downside of it, which I meant, it is really kind of hard to extend components inside of the Angular if you have dependency injection in constructors, in the classes that you're trying to extend. That's kind of not the easiest thing to do, and it's tricky. So in this case, we're good. We don't have constructor. We're not injecting nothing here, so we're just simply doing subscribe and subscribe. That's good. But please try to use more decomposition rather than inheritance in Angular. That's for sure. That's the best practice as well. So you've got it, right? Pretty straightforward. We need to register subscriptions to unsubscribe from them. But please remember, not in all components, but in components that have certain subscriptions that are not using async pipes, and for those who will be destroyed eventually. Because, for example, you shouldn't use it in app component. You know that the app component will be created, that's a root component, it will never be destroyed. If it's destroyed, the application is destroyed. The whole environment is destroyed. So yeah, so the memory will be cleaned. No point of doing that. Only in smart components with the subscription that use the subscribe method, basically. If you have subscribe method, not in the app component, but in component that will be removed from a view. So yeah, please consider using this one. It looks a bit ugly, but it's really good. It does the job. So do you have any questions related to this one?
Not.
No?
I think it's clear. I think this
Okay.
is really good, nice pattern. It's
Okay.
I think some of developers from my project, they use it. And I also saw some parts of the project they didn't use it. Maybe they just switched down the road. But yeah, I saw this is for production code as well.
Cool. So let's move on. Single subscription pattern. It's not a. I haven't seen this. I mean, no, I've seen it once. It's not that popular, but really handy. I guarantee you, 90% of the time, you should use it. If you will use a lot of side effects, getting something from backend, all those observables, you should combine them, show them in a way. So look, what it basically means. Take a look at this code carefully. Why do you think, what are we doing here? Let's walk through this code line by line, because it's always easier. You should try it, even sitting back at home, just walk through it by the line. Okay, I'm writing a loop, right? Okay, then on the second line, okay, I need to show the length of this array, of this collection. Okay, cool. Then what? Okay, then I'm creating a list, an ordered list. Okay, and I need to create list items for each item in the array, length of whom I showed previously. Okay, displaying the item, closing. Okay, cool, good, perfect. But what you should remember, first of all, we are combining those two patterns, and you can see we're using the ng container here for ngIf. If I want to display them two times, I have this array observable. I need to subscribe to it, right? So here, I need to subscribe to get the length property. Okay. Here I need to subscribe to get the items, the whole array of array of the collection, array of the array. Bad naming here. So and yeah, in this case I will have 2 subscriptions. Are you following me? So line number 2, I will have subscription to get the length property. When this object will be populated, try to get the length property out of it. And here I will have the second subscription. If I will subscribe to array, just give me the whole items of the array. So 2 subscriptions, right? But I want to avoid that, and I'm doing this kind of wrapper right here. I'm using the Async pipe, as you remember from like the second slide, I guess. And I said, okay, subscribe to it, wait to the value, and when the value will be populated, please call it as a static array variable, and that's it. You can just check the code of as directive. It's pretty easy. A couple of lines of code. So yeah, and call it as, you can just call it whatever you want. You can call it my collection. Yeah, I should have called it collection. It would be like easier to understand because it's not a JavaScript array. This is my variable that contains a JavaScript array. And then here, I don't need, like you can see here, I don't need to subscribe here. Everything is populated in this value right here. And as well, I have it right here. So that's why I have a single subscription on the top level. I would call it like container, like wrapper. You see? So pretty easy. Rather than just subscribing 2 times. And I've seen, we've used this pattern like on our project, like on a daily basis. We had like 3 or 4 subscriptions for this property, for this property, for this property, then the list or something. And you can just combine it to 1 subscription. Moving forward, for example, if you have a couple of objects, you can create a complex observable, just pipe it, just do fork join or whatever you need. There are a lot of like operators in Rxjs library are useful. And then inside of the template, you will have a single subscription. So as simple as it is, you should subscribe as less as possible. Just don't have a lot of subscriptions based on the fact that this is from the same block of code. Do you follow? Do you have like any questions about this one? And this one will as well decrease the amount of memory leaks you have. So yeah, feel free to comment if you have any questions.
No, I don't see any questions. And yeah, this is also quite good pattern. And
okay,
and
sure.
It's used. I wanted to add some comment, but I forgot.
Yeah.
Okay,
We're kind of running out of time, guys. Please stick around. Like we have a couple of slides more, and we're ready to go. So yeah, just to wrap everything up, couple of UI UX things based on my experience that I wanted you guys to suggest and maybe use even tomorrow somewhere on your project is a material UI library, which is basically done by Angular team and supported by Angular team. Honestly, on my opinion, please let me know. Just feel free to write me an email or something. Just text me. If you know any other normal, serious library that you can use in production rather than Material UI. Anyone, paid, free, whatever. This one is free, so yeah, one more benefit. If you want to write and if you want to start with Angular and you don't want to spend time on these components, doing stuff, HTML, CSS, just you can use the Material UI out of the box and it will decrease your development time like twice or something. There are like a downside. It's really hard to change the CSS inside of this library. Really hard to. We've struggled like for a month to doing something perfect, but there are people that they managed to do that and it looks pretty okay. So, but it wasn't easy basically. But for example, in this case, you can use the Material CDK, which stands for Component Dev Kit. The same stuff that Material UI uses under the hood. There are like scrolling components. There are like responsive like classes that helps you to understand which kind of component. You don't even need to write these media queries in CSS, for example. there are a lot of stuff that helps you and bare bones without any CSS, without any style, but you need to write your own for tables and stuff like that. Only the logic, the code is like implemented into this Angular CDK library. Responsive accessibility, stuff like that. You can find it in the official Angular material documentation. You have this button like CDK, just check it out. And one more thing that is highly underrated. I don't know why. I haven't seen anybody using this library right here. Angular Flex Layout. So as I said, I'm a big fan of CSS and HTML and stuff like that. So yeah, for me it's pretty easy to sit and do all this layouting, like flex, grid, whatever, like you name it. But for most people, for most developers, it's kind of frustrating, and they don't want to do that. So yeah, this Angular Flex Layout is a small library that wraps all this display flex, justify context, and stuff like that. For you, you will have only directives, easy, just flex row. You have it. All this like 2D layout. I highly encourage you to use it, even though it says it's in beta. Honestly, we had discussion with the authors of this library. So, and there is like even a ticket on GitHub. Just remove this beta like prefix from your library because it's already in beta like for 1.5 years or something. And he's okay. I want to, because in Google they leave beta. It means that I can freely change whatever I want inside of this library, and I don't need to support something. And they just kind of stick to this beta for 1.5. But it's wholly production ready. The best layout library for simple markup, like rows, columns, and stuff like that. Even like hiding elements based on viewport height, viewport width, and stuff like that. So yeah, highly encourage you. I haven't seen anybody use that before, but I will highly encourage you. I use it all the time on all my like pet projects everywhere. It helps you a lot. That's just a small tip about like UI and UX. So that's pretty much it. We ran out of time like for 5 minutes. I do apologize for that. I hope you enjoyed the talk. I know like I've rushed a bit. There is a lot of things that we can discuss like for many more hours, but we don't have that much time. I guess it's maybe like 10 o'clock at like Minsk or something, or Kiev or whatever city you are from. So yeah, thank you for sticking in with me on this talk. Thank you, RollingScopes, for having me. I do appreciate it. That's not the first time. I do love the community. Thank you, guys. I hope we will just stay in touch as well. And yeah, if you will have any questions, guys, that's my email, name, last name, gmail.com. Easy as it is. Feel free to drop me a message, any ideas, maybe any challenges you have on your project. I would love to help you. So yeah, that's it from my side. Pavel, please take the wheel.
Thank you, Alexei. That was outstanding. Outstanding presentation. I learned a few new things. Thank you very much. I see a lot of thanks from the audience.
Yeah, thank you.
I think we are about to finish. That's it from my side. And keep in mind that we do this presentation from like every few months. So stay tuned and observe, subscribe to our Facebook account.
Yeah. Subscribe, right? Observable.
Yes. There's also, guys, there are lots of people who really have experience in various fields. You can just come to us and give presentation. No worries at all. We'll help you. You will find out how it works from the backend side, how we organize this. And this is a great opportunity for you to learn interesting new stuff and meet people. So that would be all from me. Thank you, Alicia. Back to you.
Okay, so I think like the only part I would like to add, like the only thing I would like to add is that the best source of like any information about upcoming events is not only the YouTube but also our Facebook page. We also have our own website, which is like RollingScopes. You can find it in the description. And yeah, I think that's it for today. We can just call it quits and enjoy our evening.
Yeah. Have a good one, guys. Take care.
Till next time.
Bye-bye.
Cheers.